Imagine standing in a courtroom, under oath, and declaring that the technology you helped fund is inevitably going to kill us all.
Right, which is already is a huge statement.
Exactly. But then, while you're still on the stand, casually admitting that you are actively copying that exact same technology to build your own corporate empire.
Yeah, I mean, it is a staggering contradiction to put on the public record. It really just, it shatters any expectation of a standard corporate legal battle.
It totally does. And that is exactly what Elon Musk just did. We are unpacking the explosive reports from May 2nd, 2026, which covers week one of what people are already calling the trial of the decade.
Oh, absolutely. The tech world is basically glued to this.
Yeah. It's Elon Musk taking the witness stand against OpenAI. And our mission for this deep dive is to kind of, cut through the standard tech reporting.
Right, the usual headlines.
Yeah, and really look at what the revelations from this testimony actually mean for the future of artificial intelligence. We've got three massive pieces of the puzzle to put together today.
Three very complicated pieces, yeah.
Yes. Right. So first, Musk is alleging foundational deception regarding OpenAI's genesis. Second, he's issuing these terrifying apocalyptic warnings about global destruction.
Which definitely changed the vibe in the room.
To say the least. And third, like we just mentioned, he dropped a bombshell admission about his own company's aggressive copycatting tactics.
And the reason you really need to care about this right now isn't just the billionaire courtroom drama. It's not just reality TV.
Right, there's way more at stake here.
Exactly. This trial is violently pulling back the curtain on the actual mechanics of the AI industry. The legal precedents established in this courtroom, they are going to dictate the safety rails on the software that will inevitably run our hospitals, our power grids, our financial markets.
What affects literally everyone.
Literally everyone.
Okay, so let's start with the accusation that basically set the stage for everything else. Because to understand the existential stakes Musk brought up later, we have to look at the structural betrayal he claimed on the stand.
Yeah, the origin story.
Right. So Musk's testimony against OpenAI CEO Sam Altman and President Greg Brockman, it centered heavily on the claim that he was, quote, duped.
Duped. That's a strong word for a guy who invests billions.
Right. He stated that his initial funding was secured under entirely false pretenses.
And he is leveraging a very specific legal angle here.
Mm.
He isn't just saying, like, oh, we disagreed on product roadmaps, or I didn't like the new logo.
Yeah, that happens every day in Silicon Valley.
Exactly. He is arguing fraudulent inducement.
Which means what, exactly, in the context of a frontier tech company? Because, if I invest in a startup and they pivot from making apps to making hardware, I can't necessarily sue them for tricking me, right?
No, you can't.
Because startups pivot all the time just to survive. So why does Musk think this specific pivot constitutes a fundamental moral and legal failure?
Well, you have to look at the unprecedented corporate structure they created. OpenAI did not start as a standard Silicon Valley startup.
Right, it was a nonprofit.
Exactly, a 501c3 nonprofit research lab. And the pitch to early donors, including Musk, was that this organization would be free from the financial obligations that force normal companies to, prioritize quarterly earnings over human safety.
Okay, so the duty of the board was to humanity, not to shareholders.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, think of it this way. It's like you bankrolled a friend's small community-focused project because you genuinely believed in their noble mission, right?
Right, a community garden or something.
Yeah, only to find out later that they used your money to basically build a ruthless, cutthroat corporate empire.
That's actually a great way to look at it.
So does this framing sound like a standard business dispute, or is Musk really trying to establish a narrative of fundamental moral failure here?
It's definitely the latter. The foundational charter was fundamentally open source and non-commercial. But here's the catch: trading frontier AI models requires massive data centers.
Oh, yeah. Tons of servers.
And billions of dollars in compute power. The nonprofit just couldn't raise that kind of capital through standard donations. So they created a capped profit subsidiary underneath the nonprofit board.
Which sounds a bit like an oxymoron. Capped profit subsidiary under a nonprofit.
It is. But it allowed them to take billions in investment from companies like Microsoft while technically keeping the nonprofit board in charge of the overarching mission.
And this is exactly where the friction lives, right? You have a board of directors whose mandate is the safety of humanity.
Right.
Operating this hyper-aggressive commercial entity whose mandate is basically to dominate the enterprise software market.
It is a massive structural contradiction. And Musk's legal argument is that Altman and Brockman knew the nonprofit model was just a Trojan horse all along.
Wait, so he's saying they planned it from day one?
That's the allegation. By alleging false pretenses, he is claiming they pitched the noble open source vision just to secure his crucial early backing.
Because his name brings a lot of industry credibility.
Exactly. He brings credibility and cash.
Yeah.
And he's saying they used that while secretly harboring the intent to transition into this ruthless, closed-source commercial juggernaut.
But hold on a second. I mean, Musk is a veteran operator. He understands the physics of the tech world better than almost anyone.
Sure, yeah.
He knows you can't build artificial general intelligence on a shoestring budget. So isn't it highly likely he just wanted control of the commercial pivot, didn't get it, and is now crying foul?
That is a very popular theory.
Right. Like, is this narrative of being duped just a highly funded case of buyer's remorse?
I mean, it is entirely possible it's a strategic framing born out of a power struggle. But honestly, regardless of his personal motivations, this strategy attacks the foundational legitimacy of OpenAI's current dominance.
How so?
Well, if Musk can prove the genesis of the company was built on a misrepresentation, it casts a massive shadow over the fiduciary legitimacy of every decision they've made since that pivot.
Wow.
Yeah, it attacks the corporate veil itself.
Which brings us to the real implication of that structural deception. Because if the board and the executives were willing to, obscure their financial restructuring to secure billions of dollars, what oversight actually exists for the safety protocols of the technology they're building?
And that is the million-dollar question. Or, well, the billion-dollar question.
Right. And this perfectly bridges into the second major revelation from the testimony. Musk didn't just complain about the commercialization of his investment.
So he went much further.
He looked at the courtroom and issued this stark warning that artificial intelligence could, quote, kill us all or destroy us all.
A statement that drastically shifts the temperature of a corporate trial.
Just a little bit.
I mean, we move from debating the nuances of capped profit subsidiaries to debating the survival of the human species.
It's wild. Now, he has been beating the drum of AI doom for years, right? On social media, in interviews.
Yeah, it's not a new talking point for him.
But putting it on the witness stand, under oath, that feels like a completely different maneuver. I look at this and I see a highly calculated tactic.
How do you mean?
Well, Musk has a massive financial and competitive incentive to make OpenAI look reckless. So isn't this just a theatrical PR stunt?
To scare people.
Yeah, to intentionally weaponize the public's fear of AI. Paint Altman and Brockman as reckless, mad scientists, which serves his goal of legally and publicly kneecapping his biggest competitor.
It is undeniably strategic, I'll give you that. But the strategy relies on a very real void in our current system. By putting this existential dread on the legal record under oath, he is forcing a public judicial debate.
Because there's nowhere else to actually have it.
Exactly. There's nowhere else. The regulatory bodies in Washington and Brussels are light years behind the actual capabilities being developed in these data centers.
So he is effectively using the courtroom as a proxy regulatory body.
Yes, that's exactly what he's doing. Think about it. If you claim the people holding the keys to AGI are fundamentally deceptive in their business practices, you are essentially begging for external intervention regarding their safety practices.
Because in a standard breach of contract case, the discovery process would just focus on, term sheets and emails about funding, right?
Just boring financial documents, yeah.
But if you allege existential recklessness stemming from a breach of a founding safety charter, you potentially open the door to examining how they actually balance safety against their new commercial mandates.
Precisely. He wants to force their internal safety metrics into the public record.
Oh, I see. He wants to know how much compute power is being allocated to making the model smarter versus how much is being allocated to making sure the model doesn't just, go rogue.
Exactly. It forces a confrontation with the liability aspect of this technology.
That makes a lot of sense.
Because if a founder of the company is on the legal record, under penalty of perjury, warning that the technology poses an existential threat, it fundamentally alters the liability landscape for OpenAI moving forward.
It's like putting a warning label on them for the whole world to see?
Right. It signals to investors, to lawmakers, and to the public that the internal guardrails might be compromised by the competitive pressure to just ship products quickly.
Man, this sounds like the ultimate whistleblower narrative. A titan of industry trying to pull the emergency brake before his former colleagues drive the car off a cliff.
It does sound like that, doesn't it?
But this is where the narrative completely snaps in half. And we hit the third revelation, because If OpenAI is building a doomsday machine, and Musk is so terrified of it that he's testifying about human extinction,
Here it comes.
why is his own company explicitly copying their blueprints?
Yeah. The admission regarding XAI and model distillation, this is the moment that completely strips away the altruistic veneer of the whole lawsuit.
It is a staggering moment of hypocrisy. During this exact same testimony, Musk admitted under oath that his own AI company, XAI, has been, quote, distilling OpenAI's models.
On the stand, he just said it.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. He is suing them for being deceitful. He is warning the entire world that their specific technology is dangerous enough to destroy humanity.
Right.
And he is simultaneously admitting that his engineers are scraping or distilling that exact same dangerous tech to build his own AI. I really need to understand the technical reality here, because to openly admit this while acting as the savior of humanity, it just seems incomprehensible.
Well, to understand why a tech CEO would openly admit to this in open court, you really have to look at the mechanics of model distillation.
Okay, let's break it down.
In the AI development world, training a frontier model from scratch is a monumental undertaking. It requires petabytes of raw, filtered data.
Which is essentially the entire readable internet, right?
Exactly, the whole internet. And it requires billions of dollars in compute power running continuously over several months.
It's a brute force approach. You have to teach the machine the underlying structure of language, logic, and reasoning completely from the ground up.
But distillation is a profound shortcut. Think of it like reverse engineering a Michelin star recipe by scientifically analyzing the final dish rather than spending 20 years learning how to cook like a master chef.
Okay, I like that analogy.
So you take a massive, highly capable teacher model, like the ones OpenAI has spent billions developing, and you feed it incredibly complex prompts.
But wait, you aren't just copy-pasting the answers it spits out, right? Because that wouldn't actually make your own model smarter. It would just make it a parrot.
Correct. Yeah, it wouldn't learn anything. The key to distillation is that the smaller student model doesn't just look at the final text the teacher outputs. It looks at the probability distributions.
The probability distribution.
What we call the logits. It looks at all the possible answers the teacher model considered before formulating its final response.
Oh, wow. So the student model is actually analyzing how the teacher model weighs different concepts against each other.
Exactly.
It's capturing the underlying logic and reasoning pathways.
It captures the synthesized knowledge. The student model trains on those high-quality probabilities, and this allows a competitor to build a highly efficient, highly capable model at a fraction of the cost.
And crucially, in a fraction of the time.
Yes. You completely bypass the need to curate petabytes of raw training data because the teacher model has already done the heavy lifting of understanding the world. You're essentially siphoning their R&D.
But there's a massive legal irony here, isn't there? I mean, OpenAI's terms of service explicitly forbid users from utilizing their model outputs to train competing artificial intelligence systems.
Oh, very explicitly.
So Musk is essentially admitting to a systemic violation of their terms of service in open court, while simultaneously suing them for a breach of contract.
It's wild. But the contradiction reveals the intense, almost desperate reality of the current tech landscape.
Because why would someone who genuinely believes a technology is an existential threat use that same technology to rapidly train their own systems?
Right. And the answer is because in the AI race, falling behind by even 12 months could mean functional obsolescence.
It's the ultimate arms race mentality.
Yeah.
It's like, this weapon is too dangerous for them to control, therefore I must control it, and I must use every tool available to catch up to them, even if it means utilizing the very systems I am warning the world against.
That's it, exactly. It highlights a landscape where the race for AI supremacy is completely overriding the caution and stringent oversight that is being publicly preached.
Action versus words.
Totally. The distillation admission grounds the entire trial in the harsh reality of corporate competition. I mean, the market leaders are constantly looking over their shoulders.
Right.
And the challengers are systematically extracting data from the leaders' models just to catch up. The incentive structure of the entire industry is built entirely around speed and capability.
So safety and transparency just become, what, secondary performative concerns?
Performative, exactly.
It really is a race to the bottom in terms of caution. You have these titans locked in a highly complex, incredibly high-stakes competition where the rules of engagement are being ignored the exact moment they become inconvenient.
Which is terrifying when you think about what they're building.
It really is. Which brings us to the sheer density of what we are witnessing. Just thinking about a single day in court. This one block of testimony from May 2nd, 2026, it gave us three totally paradigm-shifting pieces of information that reframe the entire industry.
It really did. We started with the mechanics of foundational deception. The claim that the unique nonprofit structure of an AI powerhouse was weaponized to secure funding under false pretenses.
Right, attacking the very legitimacy of their commercial empire.
And then we moved into the existential warnings, a stark prediction of human destruction placed permanently on the legal record.
Utilizing the courtroom as a desperate proxy for the regulatory oversight that simply doesn't exist yet.
Exactly. And finally, the admission of model distillation. The revelation that the desperate drive to avoid functional obsolescence is pushing the most vocal critics to systematically extract the logic of the very models they claim are dangerous.
It's a lot to take in, and as you process all of this, you really need to consider how these dynamics will shape the tools integrating into your daily life.
Because they're going to be everywhere.
Everywhere. The outcome of this courtroom battle won't just determine a financial settlement between billionaires. The precedents established here will forge the operational rules for the technology that is rapidly becoming the infrastructure of our modern world.
It dictates how companies balance the race for capability against the mandate for safety.
The future of how we interact with information, healthcare, and infrastructure is quite literally on the stand. We are getting a real-time, unvarnished look at the engine of the digital future and the sheer velocity at which it is moving.
And it is moving fast.
It's a muddy, incredibly complicated landscape. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive to unpack the technical and legal realities beneath the headlines.
It's been fascinating.
We'll definitely be keeping a very close eye on how the rest of this testimony unfolds. But before we go, I want to leave you with one final unsettling question to mull over.
All right, let's hear it.
Think about all the friction and the fundamental disagreements we just discussed today. If the brilliant pioneers building artificial intelligence cannot even agree on the basic ethical realities of their own foundational business agreements, how can we possibly expect them to agree on the complex rules needed to prevent their creations from, as Musk warns, destroying us all?